Today's conversation takes place in Cardiff at Chapter Arts Centre after a sold-out screening of the new animated film Kensuke's Kingdom, adapted from the best-selling Michael Morpurgo novel. Joining me is Neil Martin, the lead compositor for the film, and Michael Shorten, the senior concept artist and art director. Hello, Michael, Neil, thank you very much for joining me today after the screening of Kensuke's Kingdom at Cardiff Animation Festival. So we have, art direction, compositing. At a very basic level, could you introduce, what you do, both of you, what your craft is really, and just for anyone that doesn't know in a very general sense, what is it?
And concept art is basically you're sort of, it's you've got that blank page. You're basically, you get a brief from a director, you have a discussion, and you start drawing and painting, and you're putting these ideas together. You're just trying to pull all these different threads together. Here's an idea of what it could look like, and you present it to the directors. And, there can sometimes be a back and forth depending on how much time or budget there is. Mm-hmm. As art director, then, you're taking those initial designs and you are making sure that those early designs that have been, approved by the directors and by the client and the financiers, they then will expect to see a film that looks like those early concepts, and your job then is to sort of formalize the process and present it to the team in a understandable way so that it appears as if the film was created by one hand.
Funny you should say that about the made by one hand. That's compositing basically. You're grabbing all the assets, all the elements that build up that shot and making it look like it was all just drawn all in one go. Okay. So you're taking all the backgrounds, you're taking the line, the paint for the characters from the animation department, and then any CG elements. Mm-hmm. That could be props, it could be the sea, it could be the boat, the treehouse, the cage, I think, was a CG in that as well, the cage, poachers' cages, and then just piecing them all together. And obviously they don't all match. They're all just painted with a standard colour, so you're grading them all, okay. Adding all the highlights, the lighting of the characters, making them sit in the environment of the shot, then adding any environmental elements like particles, rain, gunshots, kind of wood bursts, like dirt bursts. And just making it look like it's all was filmed in one take, one camera.
The original novel, Kensuke's Kingdom, was published in 1999. This is Michael Morpurgo, its beloved book. Does this in any way add to the pressure? Do you feel that, or is it just another creative project you're working on? Does it matter that it's existed for 25 years up to now? It's being released, but
yeah, no, for me it didn't. It's like, as you say, it's just it's exciting because that it comes with that sort of that scale, and the names Michael Morpurgo. You think, oh well, this is exciting. This could be a big deal. It could mean a lot to a lot of people. That is obviously exciting, but obviously on a practical day-to-day terms, it's just a case of this is another job, and you are sort of you're getting your job done. And but this was a particularly exciting one because it was a great story to work with.
Well, how does the source material influence the style, especially in terms of both of your roles? Because obviously the original novel, it does have some animations, it has some illustrations that it comes along with. Does this become a starting point, or do you work with a director like Neil and Kirk, and do you go deeper into this far beyond?
Yeah, I listened to the audiobook, and but obviously Neil and Kirk had their own ideas about what they might like to do with it before, or just at the point as I was joining. So I think any of those sort of ideas about how we might adapt the source material would probably come from Neil and Kirk. And style-wise, they had some good ideas there as well, some strong ideas up front. Initially it was potentially going to be a live action movie at one point, and then budget-wise and for a number of other reasons, it got sort of scaled back to, okay, well, we can't all, there's no budget to go to Indonesia or Borneo to shoot this. So it was a practical decision. But then I know that they were keen to, they had a taste for something different. So it was, I think, a model miniature approach was one idea as well before we went the route we did. But a lot of those ideas about, live action and model miniature and their very sort of realistic textured backgrounds came from those sort of early ideas. And, they presented this mood board to me, which sort of had some of those touch points. Like we want it to feel, very textured and very real and not cartoony. And then I think, looking at the mood board, I was sort of rubbing my hands and thinking, I can sort of take this and run with it and make it my own, because I loved all of the sort of graphic realism references that they had. And as I said before, it was then a case of, right, how, because I'm very sort of, my instincts is to make things sort of very, very graphic, and I love traditional animation, and I love all the sort of, the Ghibli films and all of the lovely backgrounds from things like Princess Mononoke and Arrietty and things like that. So it was quite fun in a way, because I was pushing for let's push it a bit more graphic, let's go a bit more this way, and they're like, well, hang on, we want to go a bit more this way, and it was always this nice sort of little friction between, like, right, let's make sure that we find somewhere in the middle, because it was partly practical, and it was partly a sort of aesthetic decision.
冷たい。
You've got some very famous people in there. You've got Ken Watanabe, Sally Hawkins, Cillian Murphy. So do the actors in any way have an influence on your artwork, or does this process and the way it's structured mean that these things are quite separated? Or do they sometimes just like, oh, I want to do the character slightly different, and you're like, oh God, maybe that's a good idea. We got to look at that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think in terms of animation, obviously the way that their voice is delivered is definitely going to have an impact on how you sort of play the scene. And in terms of the sort of art direction, not as much. Often because we're sort of building the project as voice casting is going on in the background. So at the start, I don't think I knew that Cillian and Ken Watanabe were even going to be the voices. So you sort of you can't necessarily rely on who your actors are going to be. But obviously, once the voices are set in stone, it would have a huge impact on the acting of the scene. And but as I understand it, I wasn't in the voice records, but I think there were very few takes. I think they were all just, they're all top of their game, aren't they? Yeah. They're all such pros, and they were in and out, I think.
In and out, right, good. That's good, right? Yeah, it's the bit that they can do quickly, I would imagine. So I've written down some of the basic sort of things that have happened with this film so far. So we've got Best Feature Film at the British Animation Awards. Great. You've had a premiere. You've been at the Annecy International Animation Festival, France. You've been at the BFI London Film Festival, now Cardiff Animation, and more. And I think in general, looking through everything online and the people that have seen it so far, very positive reaction from my perspective. When you work on a project like this for so long, I'm just genuinely interested. Is there a moment where you click and you're like, oh, this is really good? Like, because there must be a lot of time and effort going into this where you do not necessarily know what the final product will look like, even with all the animatics and things. When do you know, like, oh, it's good? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. I don't know when that happens. It happens.
For me, it happened about an hour ago when I heard all the audience laughing and crying in the right moments.
Yeah, that's one part of it. Yeah. I think it's when you, like I was saying, when you start to get finished shots, approved shots, pieced together, and you get whole sequences. You still can't hear it. So there's no audio, and you're going, oh, this looks cool, and it, and it's also not edited as well, so it could be even tighter as well. They could do but sometimes it's an action sequence. It can look still great in the longer versions of the shots with the handles, and you're like, wow, this is start to get excited, and then when you get the audio further down, or I think it's normally when did we get any music? It was towards the end, and I think Lupus sent us some sequences that had been fully scored, and it was like, oh, that's the music
it's
brought
like
it all together, and it added to everyone's work.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
anyone that was involved in those shots.
I feel like every new chapter of the production is sort of re-energizing, and you sort of that obviously there's the moment. At the very start, you think this could be good, obviously, because you haven't done anything yet. It's all wide open, and then you sort of get through all the concept art stage, and you've got a sort of all your bones together of it, and then the team joins, and then it's like the start of a new chapter, and that's exciting, and then you start chipping away at things, and obviously as you go, there's bound to be sort of certain little disappointments as you go, where you think, oh, I wish that could be better, but time is against you, and then suddenly you move on to another chapter where you see the first color images coming through, and you just re-energized again. You think, oh my God, I think this could be good. And then you see the first comps come through, and you hear the sound for the first time. It is such a long process that each moment where you think you might be losing faith because it is a real slog. You think, you're so in the trenches with it. You think, I wonder if this will look as good as I hope, and then you see a new part of it come through, and or you hear the voices or whatever it might be, and each new stage sort of re-energizes you, and you think, oh, okay, I think we got something special here, but. Obviously, it's exhausting, and it's only when you've actually put it in front of an audience and you feel all those emotions, and
that's it.
It is ultimately about the story, and if the audience connects with it, then like they did today, it's really satisfying, and maybe that is the point where you think, okay, I think we might have pulled something off here.
Because you can easily get blinded. Or a bit numb to projects that you work on, especially for
like the
feature
details,
films are set over such a long time. I mean, I was only on it for a year and a half. The directors had been on it for nearly a decade. Working through it.
Oh, and the stamina and the
perseverance, So when the audience sees it and people start liking it, you're like, oh no, it was good, because it could easily go people. Oh, you're like, I thought that, you thought it was
exactly
good, but then all of a sudden people, might point out, I didn't get that bit, and you're like, oh, was that not clear?
You spend so many years on it, and then the fear is that somebody watching, I liked it.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it looks nice. Yeah, that was all right. That was all right.
Yeah. I do.
So I want to speak a little bit about Wales specifically. So in this case, Bumpybox, Neil, this is Wales-based organisation. Right. Lupus have raised money for this project through Film Cymru and Creative Wales, and there's been a lot of support from Welsh organisations and artists along the way. What is the state of, and I suppose in context as well, you both work in Cardiff at the moment, and Michael, you are Welsh too. What is the state of animation in Wales? Is this an exciting time? And if so, why? Why are things like this happening here? What's the reason, if any? I
mean, I think when projects get done in any place, it's because that area has a good pool of talent ready to be tapped into. They've also got maybe councils or governments that are there to support, or there's industry bodies like Creative Wales and Film Cymru who are, trying to, champion these companies and, attract projects, especially the big ones like Kensuke Kingdom. So, like I was saying, it was for Bumpybox, is because Film Cymru and Creative Wales were championing us, supporting us with the finances as well. That helped Lupus pick us as a no-brainer kind of
Sure.
as as a company to choose as the outsource part for those specific things, because they could have just done comp here, but they did the ink and paint, and they did the CG, and parts of Unreal department. So they did multiple parts at Bumpybox, which is just a sign of the kind of the skill set that's in the area, and in Wales, and it's just always been it's been a good thing. It can't be can't be anything else really.
Well, then how specifically does Bumpybox get involved? Like, is it just a case of, yes, there is maybe like support from like Film Cymru, etc. So they need someone based in Wales, and it's like your track record, portfolio as an organisation. I mean,
Bumpybox comes up with their own material as well, their own programs. BBC, they did the BBC CBeebies show. Excuse me, My Pesaurus.
No, it really is that, isn't it? It's that Bumpybox have a stellar track record.
That's it,
and the artists that work for them, including yourself. Now, of course, this is like. Yeah, it makes sense.
That's it, and Sam Wright, one of the producers, who also does CG work as well, and Leon Dexter and Stuart Jepson, who are like the founders of Bumpybox. They're very good at their ideas, and then finding ways of making it work. How do we where do we go to get these to work? They approach Creative Wales, Film Cymru, other companies and stuff as well. So it's within Wales to kind of attract the funding, and then so things can be made and not have to move away, just because of everything's always getting done in London. Why are you doing it outside London? I remember that when I first was starting out, it was like, why was a film like that getting done, an animated feature getting like this was getting done outside of London, and I was like, well, why not? Why does everything have to be in? And it's not a bad thing about London. I lived there 5-6 years and enjoyed it, and I worked for many companies, so I'm not dogging on London. I think that's also what's opened up. COVID has opened up the remote working.
Sure.
You can find talent now. Specific funding, you mean you have to be in the country of the fund that's providing the funding. Yeah. So we had to be in Wales, but as later on we could then we could then find people that weren't in Wales, which made it easier to find like some other people that were just at last minute.
Yeah. I think what I'd like to say on it is just like it would be a huge thanks to Film Cymru, firstly, for bringing this production to Cardiff, even only in a small amount. And as you mentioned, I'm from Cardiff and lived here a lot of my life, and I would love to see that Kensuke does well enough that it sort of it helps more funding come this way, and it helps out productions, because, like I say, having lived here a lot of my life, I've worked in London, and I sort of and I came to Cardiff about 15 years ago, and I remember at the time it was a bit of a leap of faith, because I didn't know that I might be able to do the work remotely. This was sort of really early Zoom days, and the thought of moving to Cardiff, which was fine. I just thought, well, there's not going to be any work there, and you can work remotely now, but I would just love to see, whether it's through Kensuke or any of the other Film Cymru projects, it sort of serve as a catalyst to try and increase the amount of projects that are made here. Yes. I mean, I know there's definitely a lot of good stuff being made out of Wales now, and I worked on His Dark Materials with Bad Wolf and Paint in Practice, and that was a huge show. It had they combined with HBO and there's all these talented students who are sort of going directly from colleges around here now into the film industry. There's these really good connections with the colleges, and it would be lovely to see that sort of grow and thrive, and if Kensuke can be a small part of that, that would make us really proud.
very much for your time. I just want to wrap up really with something a little bit fun. Obviously, Film Hub Wales, what we do is we help support the films when they're released to reach exhibitors and audiences in Wales. Did you go to the cinema much as a child? And if so, which cinema did you go to? Any interesting memories connected to that time? Must have been inspirational.
I think I've got a poster. My parents bought it for my birthday. I can't remember. It was up in Edinburgh when they got it for me. It was a Never Ending Story film poster. That was the first movie I ever saw in the cinema. Okay. I was 3 years old, 1985. Nice. And I remember going to see it, and I can remember the smells of the popcorn. And back then you could still smoke in the cinemas. I don't think they were smoking there, but you smelt it in the seats and stuff. So you had that. You're right. Yeah, you had that kind of And I still remember that. But I think as it went on, I used to watch disaster movies. So maybe the 70s, like Earthquake, and and the Towering Inferno and things like that. Yeah. So I used to watch all those films.
Obviously I went to the cinema all the time. But I guess now you mention it, the first memory that's come back to me just then is my first got taken to see Jurassic Park, and leaving the cinema in tears because I was I think it was a PG, but maybe I was a sensitive kid. But I remember bursting into tears, and my mum was saying, "Oh God, what's the matter?" And I think it was the raptor scene in the
the arm
in the kitchen.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
which is
the kitchen scene. My God. And I distinctly remember that as a formative experience.
But going to cinema my parents would take us. We were in a small part in Angus, so the nearest cinema was either Dundee or Aberdeen. So you had to drive that half an hour, 45 minutes to get to the nearest cinema. But it was always, we loved doing it. And we used to always go to the video shops. So I know it's not the cinema, but that was our easier ways to watch movies was to go to and rent out videos. But loved going to the cinema when I was a kid.
And also again, big shout out to Chapter, just because
I
remember coming here a lot as a kid, especially for the more sort of alternative type movies. And I came a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, to watch The Red Turtle, which is a Michael Dudok DeWitt film. It was just such a privilege to be able to watch movies like that in an environment like this. We've got to sort of try and protect these types of cinemas.
I think I saw that here as well, actually.
Did you?
I think I saw that here.
Crying in the back row.
That was me, yeah. Because I remember going back and telling Jean-Pierre, I saw your movie, because he was the lead composer on Red Turtle. So that must have been here. Yeah. Because it was here. It was a Chapter I saw.
I was in tears at that one as well.
Yeah.
Look at that. Maybe you were in the same screening.
Maybe we could make that. You're just projecting it.
Yeah, fantastic. No, I agree. Chapter and some of their entire network of independent cinemas across the country. They really do help support releases. And I mean, from my perspective, it's important that audiences understand that really big projects like Kensuke's Kingdom have these connections to Wales, and I do believe it does influence some people to go and watch and support their local cinema. Yeah. So ultimately, thank you both very much for having this conversation with me today. And I'm glad the screening went so well and everything has come together for you. It's great.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, cheers.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, nice talking to you. Yeah.
Welcome back.